Given the lack of infrastructure and urban planning, as well as the poverty, it's not difficult to believe that the people of the Dominican Republic lack access to a very vital resource, tap water that's safe to drink. We went in search of answers, and here's what we found. According to the organization Save the Children, throughout the world, over 900 million people do not have access to enough water, and 2.5 billion live without a good sanitation service. Most of them live in rural areas. It is estimated that 10% of the global illnesses are spread due to this weakness in the sewer system and to poor infrastructure. It is a fact. Water is the essential component of all life. But in spite of the country's high economic growth during the 1990s and the efforts the government is doing these days, it is still very difficult to obtain drinking water in most of the areas of Dominican Republic. That is why it is called the precious liquid. We talked to a man who sells water daily, and this is how he describes his reality.
Most of the people do not have pure water because most of us are poor. We try to take these bottles to apartments because this water is purified. We sell around 150 bottles per day.
We visited poor urban areas where the same bottle is sold for less than $1. That was a good sign. Most of them could buy them. Others seem not to realize that they do not have access to it and are exposed to sicknesses that can be avoided. I cook with this water, which is fine. I do not have problems. We do have pure water. Let me show you. This is where it's coming from. The water was coming from a community fountain that was not purified. The lack of drinking water is one of the results of the economic difficulties and the poor infrastructure the country is facing. The unusual delivery of this basic service generates popular discontent among the population. We talked to President Leonel Fernández, and this is what he said.
No, pero en el tema del agua potable sí que hemos avanzado enormemente en República Dominicana.
In the water aspect, we have improved a lot in Dominican Republic. We created a very complex water system in the southern area, and we had improved the pure water system in Santo Domingo. And we also created aqueducts in other places where there was a lack of pure water. There are some neighborhoods that still do not have access, but that is a matter of construction. So we solved the micro problems in communities, and I think we had improved a lot in that aspect.
President Fernández says it's a problem that is being worked on, but there is still room for improvement, and that's crucial to the way of life for the people of the Dominican Republic. Two countries that share the same island but are very different have at least one problem in common today: the lack of pure water. Paula Newton is in Haiti. Paula.
Thanks, Anna Maria. I'm in Haiti, geographically the same island, but with its own set of water problems. Here, water is linked to a serious outbreak of cholera. 10 months after an earthquake devastated this poor country, killing more than 250,000 people and leaving 1.6 million people homeless, unclean water is still a big problem that affects the health of this population. Carved into the agricultural heartland of Haiti, the winding waters of the Artibonite offer a livelihood to many. But these same waters could now be the very source of cholera that is killing them. Residents are in and out of the water here countless times a day. They say they have been warned not to drink it, but with alarming habit, they do just about everything else with it. And I want you to take a look at now this little boy who's in the water. He's been swimming in the water for some time since we've been here. He has his hands in his mouth. He is clearly taking water in, and yet this is a river that most likely is contaminated with cholera. Here, this little boy washes out his food bowl in river water and is served his meal with water still clinging to his food. Every bite could now potentially make him very sick. He's used to doing this villager tells us. It's not going to make him sick. And that's the next challenge, convincing Haitians that water they have counted on for generations is now making them sick. There are signs some are willing to believe it. Understandably, they need another source of water. In the village of Morupe, they've got one. They say this is some of the purest water here in Haiti. It's just north of Saint-Marc, and this is well water that has been treated. Now, what this community says would be helpful would be to get those rehydration kits, those oral kits, to be dispensed right here so that they'll know of people that are sick right away and that those people will get their treatment right at the water source. The water comes courtesy of this well in the Yaya Water Company. Its water purification director tells us they're willing to provide during this crisis about 500,000 liters or 144,000 gallons of clean water a day. Solutions are here, but first Haitians must be convinced that river water could now be a dangerous predator, and if they're not, they may struggle to stay ahead of this crisis. The repercussions from the quake are obviously affecting the health of this country. But as Anna Maria found out, on the other side of this island, unsanitary conditions are affecting the balance of life underwater, too.
According to UNESCO, the beaches along the eastern region of Punta Cana, Bávaro, are complemented by some of the most crystalline waters in the world. However, beneath them, their coral reefs are threatened. They are considered the most productive and species-rich marine ecosystems, and they are a valuable resource for the economy of this Caribbean country. Reefs and mangroves help to build beaches and slow erosion, drawing tourists to the coasts. But the coral reefs in the Dominican Republic are in danger, posing a threat to tourism. The reefs are threatened by human activities: overfishing, agriculture, tourism, and coastal development. Some of them are officially protected, but environmental activists say enforcement is lax. In poor urban areas like this, locals are not as focused on ecotourism and diving, and water is littered with trash: bottles, plastic bags, shoes, and food that pollutes the sea and causes havoc to the environment. We went to Punta Cana, Bávaro, a popular and prosperous resort region on the eastern side of the Hispaniola island, to understand what is being done to preserve the coral reefs in an area where tourists come to see the longest coral reef on the island. The beautiful scenery attracts not only tourists, but people like Jake Keel, director of the not-for-profit Punta Cana Ecological Foundation and one of the founders of Punta Cana Resort and Club. He decided to move from the U.S. to this region with a clear mission: protect and restore the natural resources of the Punta Cana region and contribute to the sustainable development of the Dominican Republic.
Definitely one of your bigger projects, or it seems to me like one of the focuses of the foundation, is on the coral reef restoration. Right. How does that work?
Well, in terms of restoration, what we're doing, we're specifically working with an endangered species, Acropora cervicornis and Acropora palmata. These are two species that are in danger of extinction. What we've done is identified fragments of these corals in different areas where they're not in healthy conditions. And then we've taken those fragments and brought them to nurseries in the water, in the ocean, put them on frames and in different structures where they're in better water quality and they can grow. And so once these corals, they grow rather quickly, in the course of a year, we can then trim these corals and, using different methodologies, replant them back onto the reef.
What is the importance of the coral? Why rescue them?
There was a recent study done that talks about the economic importance of coral reefs. The value that coral reefs create in terms of beaches is in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Coral reefs and the fish that occupy coral reefs create beaches. And then they not only create them, they also protect them from erosion from the waves.
The Dominican Republic, which has seen its income from reef-dependent fisheries cut by more than half over the last decade, could suffer losses of up to $100 million in hotel industry revenue if current rates of beach erosion continue for the next 10 years, according to a recent report from the World Resources Institute.
And so without coral reefs, we would have none of these beautiful beaches that we see in the Dominican Republic. Coral reefs also are habitat for fish, which are huge economic, of huge economic importance for local fishermen, for the tourism industry. They're finding that coral reefs supply medicines. There's all kinds of functions that coral reefs supply for humans, these services that they supply, and they're irreplaceable. They're incredibly diverse habitats, and you can't replace a coral reef. Once it's dead, it's very hard to recover it. So the best thing that we can do is really try and protect them as much as we can, and then in the areas where it's necessary, in species or in fragments that are necessary, try and restore.